So, Bobbi, when you put your life on the page and you hand it out to the world to see, it's got to feel, well, how does it feel?
Well, it feels a little exposed.
Yeah.
You know, it feels good. I mean, when I finished the book and handed it in, I was like, all right, I got this. You know, there was a lot of rewrites, and, you know, shout out to my husband that went over word by word, making sure that it sounded like me and that I didn't hurt people's feelings.
That matters to you, not hurting
It
people's
does matter.
feelings.
It does matter to me. You know, sometimes when you speak the truth, it doesn't come off nice.
Yeah.
And it's really important that it comes off nice to me.
You're a straight shooter, which I like, and you feel that in this book.
Yeah.
One of the things I knew nothing about was your childhood. I feel like I've known you for years, feel like we all know you. And when I read about your childhood, I guess I was a little surprised. I didn't know the backstory. I didn't know about your mom. I didn't know about your dad.
Yeah.
Was writing about your mom, there are many facets to her, but I would imagine a part that was difficult to write about was her struggles with mental illness.
You know, it's so interesting because growing up, I didn't really think that I had a complicated childhood. I just had a loving childhood. My mom had her issues and her struggles and had these bouts of mental illness before people even talked about mental illness. But I just remember everything lovingly. So somehow I'm wired to get rid of the bad things and think of the good things. But then when writing the book, it brings it all up again. And I'm like, okay.
So when you looked back, and I'm not going to be someone who harps on what's the underbelly, because life is a huge tapestry.
It is.
But when you did write about the part where your mom jumped out of a moving car.
Oh, she tried to commit suicide many times. You know, my sister found her in the bathroom slitting her wrists. You know, she wasn't good at it, luckily. But, you know, for her, it was a cry for help. And it was, you know, definitely a scary time.
And how did you cope as a kid? I know you say you kind of tucked it away and went about your business.
Right.
But how does a little kid, because you're looking for stability.
Right.
You're looking for that.
Right. Well, I was in 7th grade. I was the oldest of the 3 kids. And, you know, my dad just really, you know, brushed himself off, and he was there. And him and I got really close during that time. And Mom was in the hospital, I don't know if it was 3 weeks, a month. And then she came home, and then things were better for a while. She was finally diagnosed and was on medicine. So she was better. And then she had a couple different, you know, times like relapses. My parents got divorced, and my mom met the next man who was the love of her life. And everything was calm and great until he passed away, and she had another episode.
They say when you know the truth, your body relaxes. When you guys got the diagnosis that your mom was bipolar, was it like, oh, there it is?
No, because honestly, I never saw a lot of weird activity. So I didn't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I mean, you know, I was there, I was busy with my friends, you know, here in 5th, 6th, 7th grade, you know, I'm my independence, and we lived in, you know, a nice suburb of Chicago. We had an idyllic life. And then this thing happened, and I don't remember being embarrassed by it. And I remember, you know, my father explaining it to me, and I felt very grown up because I knew it was my responsibility to come home and be, you know, someone there for my brother and sister. And he also hired a woman to come in and take care of us. I'll never forget. Her name was Frances Fisher, and she was a very strong German woman. And she used to make us hamburgers, put mayonnaise on the bun, and French fries. My mother never served us that food.
No.
So there's always a good side to bad things. And I remember the French fries and the mayonnaise on a hamburger, which I would never eat again.
But you know what I love when you describe your mom? You talk about her as the epitome of beauty. And for you who fell in love with that part of life, that industry, to have her as your very first teacher without knowing it, what was it about her? Tell me about that part of her that drew you in that way.
Well, she was a very beautiful young woman, and she was young. She was 20 or 21 when I was born. So, you know, I would stare at her, and she'd wear her high heels. She either had her Jackie Kennedy period, or, you know, when she got older, she looked like Joan Collins. You know, she kind of went, she loved glamour.
Yeah.
And she used to watch me on the Today Show and say, was that a suit you were wearing? I'm like, why? She goes, well, one was navy, one was black. I'm like, she couldn't focus on anything except, it's not about how I did on the show, by the way, you know. But Diane Sawyer told me the same story of her mother. She called her to ask her about some interview she did with Castro. And she goes, Diane, you looked so tired. You needed more makeup.
Oh,
so,
my
you know,
gosh.
Be kind to your girls.
Be kind to your girls. You're right. So when you knew that makeup was a thing, a lot of parents want their kid to kind of follow a practical path that has a clear goal at the end. What you were in love with wasn't practical. It was risky. It was scary. Were your parents cheering you on, or were they like, Bobbi, let's, you know?
Well, actually, my mother is the one that led me in that way because I had gone to 2 colleges. I was never a good student in school. You know, I didn't know early on that I was a visual learner and not a traditional learner. So a creative kid, you know, there's a million people like me. And I said, Mom, I want to drop out of school. I had gone to 2 colleges. She said, you can't. She didn't graduate. She wanted me to graduate. And I said, but Mom, it's so boring. She said, you need a degree. And she goes, what do you want to do? I said, I have no idea. She said, forget what you want to do with your life or how you're going to make money. If today's your birthday, you could do anything you want. And I thought, I could have said, go clothes shopping, go to a bakery. I said, I want to go to Marshall Fields and play with makeup. She said, why don't you be a makeup artist? I said, I don't want to go to beauty school. She said, I'm sure there's a college somewhere that you could get a degree in makeup.
Wow, that is awesome.
And there wasn't. But I found Emerson College that let me design my own major.
Oh, they let you carve out what you wanted.
I did.
That's cool.
Back then. And now I know that's kind of started me being an entrepreneur.
Right. You knew what you wanted, so you said, this is what my major is going to be.
Yes.
God, you have moxie.
Yeah.
You know what I like about you? Well, I like a lot of things, but a lot of people find their pain, their Achilles heel, their childhood trauma, and become defined by it. And that's kind of the way it is. Like, what is it? Oh, my parents were X, and so therefore I'm Y. You are sitting here wildly successful in your life, largely because you didn't do that. You didn't have that. What did you do with the trauma? Like, where was it? Do you just carry it along and say, I'll deal with it later? Or,
you know, I honestly don't know. But when it's very easy for me to let go of the things that are upsetting. Even when I fight with my husband, you know, I forget why we're in a fight. Yeah. You know, I know I'm over it as soon as we have the fight. It takes him a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. But, you know, with what happened with my family, I don't know, there was constantly something between my mother, my brother, you know, they both had their struggles. I don't know, I just kind of went on. And even, you know, in my work life, when things were challenging and struggling, I just went on. I went around things, right? Like, okay, that's not good. That doesn't make me feel good. Let me try it this way. And I'm always someone chasing the light, I guess. I don't know.
I think there's a thread there, because I was thinking of Maria Shriver. She's kind of the same way. She had a lot of childhood stuff, but continued on, unpacked it later.
Right.
But after she had already done all of the great things, and still many, many more to come. Okay, so
maybe I haven't unpacked it yet, but writing this book and reading my book, I would think it would, you know,
trigger
cause something. And it hasn't yet.
I do think some people, I mean, this is an extreme example, but I was talking to a man who was a Holocaust survivor, and he was watching a tennis match.
Right.
And he had joyful grandkids and was playing, and I was watching this whole scene in his house.
Yeah.
And I go, I have to ask, like, how is that? And he said something to the effect of, some trauma is so big, you carry it. Now, this is obviously, I don't want to not have a beautiful, fun, fulfilling life because of, so it lives here, and then I go on and hug my grandkids. Like, you don't have to, you know, always, and of course that's the extreme example, but we all have little bits and pieces we probably lug around.
Right. And I'm also really lucky because when I found my husband, I got his parents who, like, you know, I mean, I mentioned Ozzie and Harriet to someone in my car and no one knew who it was, but, you know, it was my Ozzie and Harriet moment. Like, these people were so simple, normal, down to earth, and nice. I got to kind of build, you know, my family in a new way.
So you find that you carve out your own little major, and there are a lot of women girls who loved makeup.
Right.
So what was your path, or did you have a mini plan, or what was going on?
I graduated and I did the most important thing. I got a waitressing job because I was so worried about supporting myself.
Yeah.
And, you know, I did that for a year and tried to get hired as a makeup artist in Boston, and there was really no work. I did one film on teenage alcoholism. It was so boring. I said, I don't want to be in the film business. And I moved to New York, didn't know anyone, and I opened up the Yellow Pages. You know, there was no internet.
Yeah, exactly.
I opened up the Yellow Pages and I looked up makeup. Oh, makeup union. What's that? I called.
A makeup union, okay.
You know, I made an appointment. I went there and I said, I'm here to sign up for the union. And the guy laughed at me. And he said, who do you know? I said, nobody. He said, well, it takes about 7 years. And I'm like,
to get in the union.
To get in the union.
Geez.
But I'm going to help you and throw you some things. So he would call me with I got to assist a makeup artist on Saturday Night Live. I did, you know, NBC News.
Oh.
I did all these things.
Okay.
So I got experience, and then I started, you know, dealing with fashion and going to see modeling agencies. And then I got totally, like, you know, in love with the fashion world. So I became a freelance makeup artist.
Fashion makeup is funky. I mean, you know, anyone who's watched New York Fashion Week, sometimes it's wild. Is that the kind of makeup you were doing back then?
You know, I was trying to do the makeup that was popular at the time.
Okay.
I was trying, and I was really not good at it. I didn't like it. I didn't think anyone looked good, and I couldn't get the girls to look good. So I started just using makeup the way I would make myself up, just to make the girls look prettier. And you know, one day it became a cover of an Italian magazine.
How?
Because someone hired me and I did the makeup. I made her really bronzy and tan. I remember I took the bronzer, put it on her eyelids, on her lips. I was just always making things up.
Yeah.
And it made the cover. And I showed it to this top makeup artist. What do you think? He said, you're never going to work. You're never going to work if you do makeup like this. But I kept doing it because it just felt right to me.
So when you get a no like that from somebody who you respect and the industry respects, why did your small voice beat his?
Well, I felt it in my stomach when he first told me, and then I just kept on. I mean, when I told someone I was launching a makeup line, you know, the first time, he said, "Oh, no one needs another makeup line. There's not a chance that this is going to work."
Jeez.
I mean, we get a lot of rejections.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you weather? I know you have the voice inside, but how do you
know, I feel it, and then I let it go.
Okay. That's your thing.
I mean, I do.
That is your
superpower.
That must be it.
Right. I let it go because it doesn't serve me.
Okay. So you want a makeup line, and your whole thing was you like natural, you like women to look like who they are.
Right. No one else was doing it, and I just kept doing it, and I found people that liked it slowly, and they started hiring me more. And the people that I struggled when I worked with, that I never felt I was good enough, I stopped working with them, or they stopped hiring me, whatever it was. And I just found my people, found my posse. It's kind of the secret of life, finding your posse, right? The people that are around you that you trust, that have your back, that understand you.
Yeah. How did you find them? Like
slowly,
yeah.
You know, slowly. I mean, I found a photographer that liked my work and said, this is amazing. And then I found another one, and then editors started calling me for a certain look, and, you know, it just kind of spiraled.
It sounds like a slow build, but there's usually a moment where you go, oh my God, like I got something here. Was there
a zillion? There was a zillion moments. The first moment was when I got hired for Glamour magazine to do, it was a dancer. I lied and said I did hair too, and I don't. So I did her hair and makeup, and it was, you know, a lot of pictures on a double-page spread, so you couldn't really see the face. But it said makeup by Bobbi Brown on the inside. Wow. And that was like, oh my God.
Wow.
Right? And it was a photographer, Brigitte Lancôme, who has become a very famous celebrity photographer, and she just kept hiring me because she liked me. And then I started working with Bruce Weber, and he loved what I did, and he actually taught me to do even less makeup than I was doing. So that worked out well. Found another couple photographers, and after 7 years, I got a Vogue cover. 7
Wow.
years.
Who was the cover?
Naomi Campbell.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
on the cover of Vogue.
Is that when people started to know your name outside of kind of the inner circle?
Pretty much, and then what happens when you're a freelance makeup artist, they would call you for, Bobbi, what's the trends of the season? Bobbi, how do people keep your makeup on? And so I became the expert. And I think because I was such a simple person, straight shooter, the editors loved my tips.
Yes.
So that became a part of, I would do the makeup, but then be quoted in it. And then all of a sudden they'd want to photograph me for the things. And I'd be like doing all that stuff. So I've always had a couple. And then I wrote a book.
Yeah.
And then another book. And then I was on a book tour. And I answered this really nice, like, old lady's question. She was like, shorter than me even. And she said, I've seen you on the Today Show. I had been on once. She said, is there anything else you want to do in your life? You've done so well. I said, I'd love to be a regular on the Today Show. She said, honey, my grandson is Jeff Zucker.
Oh my God, are you serious?
That was on a Friday. And Monday I became...
I can't.
Yeah.
Jeff
came down. He came down and he always called me Barbara. And we're still friends to this day. And he said, Barbara, Grandma Fran said she wanted you on the show. I said, yeah, this is awesome. He said, how often do you want to come on? I said, once a month. He said, okay, you're on once a month. I came down the next month. He came down to say hello. He said, all right, Barbara, now what do you want? I said, can I have a title? He said, what kind of title? Everyone had something. So I said, can I be the beauty editor of the Today Show? Okay. He never came down a third month, so I never asked him for money. But I was on the show for 14 years.
Holy moly.
Yeah, and that really launched Bobbi Brown Cosmetics into...
So when did you decide to do the cosmetic line in this time frame?
Well, I never really decided to do anything. It just things happen. I was doing a shoot and I went into Kiehl's, whatever it's called, and I met a chemist behind the counter and I told him I always wanted to make a lipstick that looked like lips, that wasn't greasy, didn't smell bad. He said, oh, I'll make it for you. So we worked together on a formula and a color. And then he said, I'll give them to you. You sell them, and we'll split the $15. I said, great. So I started this little thing out of, I didn't know it was a side hustle. We didn't have words like that then. I didn't know that I was an indie beauty person. We didn't have those terms yet. And I started selling them out of my house. And one day, and all these stories are in the book, but one day I went to a party and whoever invited me, I said, thank you for inviting me. She goes, oh, I'm a big fan. And I said, oh, what do you do? She said, I'm a cosmetics buyer at Bergdorf Goodman. I said, oh, I have a line of lipsticks. And that's how I got into Bergdorf.
And did it sell? Because in Bergdorf, first of all, that's monumental and crazy, and that's the gateway. But did it, because a lot of times people do get things in a big department store and it gets lost in the sauce. How did anybody find it?
Well, there was no room on any counter. So they said, we have a table in the middle of the floor with a couple cosmetic bags. I said, great.
I'll take that.
So they put it there, and it turned out to be a great thing because people saw it.
Yeah.
And we thought we'd sell 100 the first month, and we sold 100 the first day. So it became, a makeup artist doing lipsticks who people have read about in a magazine. It became a thing.
All the building blocks were there for it to be like wildly successful. So wildly successful, in fact, that when you get as good as you are, you get the attention of the Estee Lauders of the world. How far along in your business were you when Estee Lauder came knocking and said, hey, we're interested?
4 years.
Okay.
4 years. We had become the #1 line in both Bergdorf and Neiman Marcus.
Wow.
So trust me, they were looking.
They were like, let us.
Yeah.
So tell me about the debate in your head when an Estee Lauder comes and says, we would like to have you.
Well, first of all, there was no debate. There was no debate. I never thought in my wildest dreams that would happen. And, my husband and I had business partners, and we were having a tough go of it, a lot of personality issues. And I was glad to have it someone else's problem. And Leonard Lauder, if you ever had, you met the man.
Love him.
Just the
Loved
most
him,
incredible human being. And when he looks you in the eye and says, I want you to be part of the family, I want to nurture and take care of everything, and I want to teach you. And I just said, of course. And so we sold it. I stayed on 22 years as an employee.
Wow.
And when we sold the company, I had a 25-year non-compete.
So they really knew your potential. So before you signed, they said, "Great, we'll do this, but you can't open and have another makeup line for 25 years
Or be in beauty or anything.
or quarter century."
Right.
Okay.
And, I mean, look, there was a buyout connected to it, meaning, how much I got every year depended on how we sold. Like, they wanted me to be in it, and I was in it. Because even when I was there, I thought I still owned it. I acted like I still owned it.
It was still yours.
It was mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So being acquired by a big company like that is amazing because you make a ton of money and you got to be able to keep your hands on the steering wheel. But like a lot of these big companies, they're the ones who are in charge ultimately, and they get to decide. You were used to calling your own shots, doing your own thing. You know what you want. You've done it your whole career. And then suddenly, later on during this thing, they were telling you what to do. They were putting things through without your okay.
Right. But in the beginning, I would say, a good 18 years were easy and fun. And hard, not easy, but really great. And, I was totally in charge. Any whim I had, anything I had the support. I had, I learned so much. And then, things change, in companies, and it was definitely harder and harder. And the last 2 years were pretty unbearable, but I kept thinking I was going to fix things.
You did. You're an optimist.
Oh yeah, totally. I was like, no, I got this.
I'm gonna turn it around.
Yeah,
you talk in detail in your book, and I'll let people read it because it's very interesting for anyone who's been in it. You don't have to be in this situation to know these feelings.
Right. Yeah.
But it is the feeling of you're in charge, and then suddenly everything gets chipped away, and suddenly before you know it, they're telling you that they're in essence firing you.
Yeah.
You were face to face in an office, and they handed you a letter and basically said,
"We're canceling your work contract."
And you said, "So I'm fired."
And they said, "No, we have a new, deal for you." And she handed it to me, and I said, "I don't have to read it." She goes, "Yes, you do." I said, "You fired me. I don't." And I turned around and walked out and left.
Wow, that's so you.
I was like, I don't have to stay here anymore.
I don't have to stay. I know for you things last fleetingly, but
no, that was not fleeting.
No, that was real.
Oh yeah, that was real.
Something you built that all your years went into,
right?
And all of a sudden it comes down to this. How did you process what was happening?
Well, the most interesting thing, when I got in the elevator from the 42nd floor, going down, all I remember is this giant relief leaving me, because I've been trying to fix things. Every time I'd walk into a counter, I'd be like, "This looks terrible. Look at the lighting. Look at this." Like, it was, it just got too big, and I always thought the right people were not dealing with the brand. And I was always, complaining. I'm sure I was a pain in the neck to everyone, but I'm like, this is not right, guys. It's so easy to fix. Just get different light bulbs. I mean, to me, like, that's the way I think of things. Really basic. But I just had this relief, because then all of a sudden, but then I had like, oh shit, now what?
Yeah.
And I called my husband, who came in. We sat down at a restaurant downtown, and I had been signing 2-year contracts at that point because I didn't know how long I wanted to stay. And he just said, "Finally, I have you back." He said, "I've wanted to travel," and he says, "I have a new project I want you to work with me on." He said, "I bought a building, and I thought we should do a hotel." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Why not? Sure, let's do a hotel."
Can I ask you a question about the ending part?
Yeah.
And this is not a parallel to Sarah Blakely, but I interviewed her, and she describes the moment that she sold Spanx. Different things, but still, it's like your baby's not your baby anymore.
Right. But she sold to a financial.
Right.
I sold to a company that's different, that wanted, more strategic.
More strategic. Yeah. But she did say once it wasn't hers, which happened at the end for you, and she said she went into this spirally kind of depression.
Of course.
I built this thing, I made this thing, and now this thing doesn't belong to me anymore. What was that time like for you?
No, I never felt that.
No.
I never felt that. I mean, first of all, it wasn't nearly as big, and it was only 4.5 years. So, and it was optimistic because these people were going to help us grow it. And, I was a kid from Chicago living in the suburbs and, mom of 2 kids. And all of a sudden I'm showing up at all these fabulous, dinners and parties and meetings. And, it was an incredible experience for many, many years.
And at the end, how did you reconcile somehow when you talk about the firing and the rest of it in your book that you could tell it's full of like, how could this have happened at the end?
Yeah.
Have you reconciled that?
It took a long time. I mean, it's been 7 years already. So the first year was rough. I mean, it was tough. I've never used the old brand's cosmetics since the day I left.
Really?
Never.
Yeah.
Never. I just didn't want to touch it. And look, what happens is you feel like a failure. You're angry. You're sad. You're mad. Then you get euphoric. Like, okay, what's next? And then you have you still deal with these emotions. So I didn't go to a shrink because I'm not a therapy guy. But I did go to my chiropractor who does emotional releases. And I would go there a couple times a week. And he really helped me get the angst out of me. And, my support team, my husband, my besties, they listened and they listened and they listened. And they encouraged me. And, Bobbi, there's a million things you could do. There's life after this, because I thought it was over.
Yeah.
I thought I'm done. No one's going to ask me, Bobbi, what do you like to eat in the morning? All the things that used to drive me crazy. I'm like, well, that's done. Trust me, it was the opposite.
Well, what's interesting is you had the shackles on you because you weren't allowed to start another company for several more years.
Right. I had 4.5 years on a 25-year non-compete.
That, to me, I mean, just getting that in my head, it's like, not only do you not want me, but I can't do something else. That seems so unfair.
And I'm sure I am not a person that does well when people say you can't do something.
So what did you do?
First of all, I had ideas. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just open a line of cosmetics and call it No Name. I still own that, by the way. And, my husband was like, no, you're not. But I said, yes, I am. But I didn't. And I started doing other things. I worked on the hotel. Then I went out to lunches and breakfasts with a lot of people. One of those people owned Lord & Taylor. And he said, hey, let's do a Just Bobbi shop in like 4 of the stores and see if we could create excitement. I said, okay. So I did that for a year. And then Lord & Taylor sold. So then I brought it in-house. And I started just doing different things. And I realized how much I missed makeup. I went back being a makeup artist, started doing shoots in a photo studio that we have in Montclair. And, I was kind of off to the races. And then I said, you know what? I wonder what's going on with this new makeup world, meaning the clean makeup world. Because, not that there's anything wrong with traditional products that I used my whole life, but things were changing, so people wanted cleaner formulas, and I just said, let's try it. And so I hired one girl, and we started formulating things. And then it's like, oh my God, this is so good.
And fun. You got
fun.
It's what you love, right?
And I feel like I went back to when I was a kid starting it the first time. I mean, I was 31, but, I felt very, very refreshed and very excited. And people loved what I was doing, and I got to film a master class on makeup, and I used all the testers because it was just better than anything else I used.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Yeah, so that was my way I tested.
So Jones Road was born.
Was born the day my non-compete was up.
The
day. By the way, everyone said, don't do it. Every PR person.
Why?
Because you can't do it because it was a week before the presidential election, in the middle of the pandemic, in the middle of all the social unrest. They said, just don't do it. Wait till January. Remember what happened in January 6th?
Yes.
So I didn't listen. And I just pressed the button. We launched it on the Today Show. Joanne LaMarca
Love
shot
JoJo.
it in the middle of the pandemic. My friend Elvis Duran. And the business article in the Wall Street Journal.
Boom.
And Instagram. Flipped it on, and
that
it was
was
live.
So Jones Road is born.
Yes.
And now, I mean, I see it everywhere now. It's just like when you touch something, that's what happens.
Yeah.
Were you at all nervous? It's like a musician who's had so many hits. It's like, I'm going on the road again. Who's going to show up? Did you wonder, are people going to come?
Are you kidding? Absolutely.
Yeah.
When we first launched, I'm like, oh my God, what if I'm a one-hit wonder?
Yeah.
And what if people just say, oh, this is like the Emperor's New Clothes, there's nothing to it? Because I come from a world where fancy packaging, fancy boxes, over-marketed things, you know, which never sat well with me because I didn't really believe they did the things that they were tested to do. So I did something completely opposite. I bought stock packaging, stamped a big Jones Road on it, and kept the price point down, put it in a really cool, plain box, and I didn't know if people were going to like it or not.
I mean, the idea, what did you learn? And this isn't really a second act, it's a continuation.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm in a similar situation to you where it's like repotting. Let's start again. Let's see what the new thing is. Let's see how the roots feel in some other ground. Oh, it feels cool.
That's why you're successful. A lot of people can't get their head around things that are changing or things that have changed. And all of a sudden they're at home feeling bad that they're not doing anything. But you've got to like lean in to the good stuff. Like it's all new. It's like, all right, I'll open a Substack. I'll go on TikTok. Oh, events? Of course we'll do events. Like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
I watched one of your commencement speeches. I think it was at FIT maybe. But you were talking about first, don't overthink, just do. I like that because that's what's, I think, stopping people. You'll think of, once you know the odds, like if someone would have told you the odds of being a wildly successful makeup artist when you were a kid trying to make that
getting
curriculum,
D's in math and science.
D's in math and science. The odds probably would have been 1,000,000 to 1, and here you sit. Yeah. So I love that advice. That's kind of served you throughout.
Yes, because you know what? You never know.
Yeah.
You never know. And it's like, I don't believe in failure, and a lot of things I did didn't work out. I had a wellness brand that didn't work out. I had an eyeglass line that didn't work out. So it's not like everything I touch turns to gold. And it's good when things don't work out because you're like, why didn't they work out? Oh, that's why.
Right.
I'm going to do it differently next time.
Your life is full of richness. You talk a lot about your husband, and you mentioned your kids.
Yes, my 3 sons.
Your 3 sons, who and now you've got 2 grandkids. Describe what your time pie looks like. Like how does that look?
Well, I'm really lucky. I come from Chicago, and us Chicago people are, have our feet on the ground. I feel most comfortable when my feet are on the ground. I've got, I spend every day of my life with my husband, and our 3 sons are in the area. We see 2 of them more than we see the third because he travels for work, but they're our posse. And I have a couple nephews that are also in our posse. And now I was always, my husband and I traveling with 3 sons, 2 nephews, and a couple foreign exchange students. So I'm used to having a lot of people around, all boys.
Well, all boys. You got a lot of that.
Right.
Yeah.
But now I got a granddaughter, so everything is pink in my life, everything. I even bought a pink bra and pink socks that when I'm with Lily I wear. And
so
and now I just got another grandson, and you know what? I have friends. I have a lot of friends that I really like, that that we go out to dinner. But my family is the center of my universe. It always has been.
I was going to say,
always has been.
How did you, when you were, because a lot of working moms, especially successful ones like you, feel that it's a struggle to like I'm going to miss back to school night because that's the way the cookie crumbles. How did you deal with?
Are you missing back to school night?
Yes.
Why? What's more important?
Nothing's more important, but I have a speech that I signed a contract for
before you knew
6 months ago.
Okay, fine.
Otherwise, who would have done that?
I get it.
But nothing's more important than that. So I feel yuck.
Right. Yes.
Like,
no. I know.
Ugh.
Right. Yes.
So how did you deal when you had things like that?
Well, I hacked my life. So I realized, because I also had to commit to travel for the company before I knew when the sing-alongs were. So I used to go in the first day of school with a bag of makeup and knock on the principal's door. And, we always had women principals mostly. And I would say, hi, I brought you something. Could you just please tell me when things are scheduled? So I got the entire list of when the teachers' conferences. So then when I put my dates for travel,
you worked around those. Yeah.
Things don't always go perfectly. I once missed one of the sing-alongs at school, and only once. I don't remember what it was that was more important, but I had to miss it. And I look back now, I laugh because my kids are brilliant and fantastic, but they can't sing or dance. But I was there watching, so it's okay.
Like showing up is really the whole thing
for me. Like I wanted to be there. I wanted to see the other parents. I wanted to be part of it. I always struggled because, a lot of the moms were not working, and they would get together for book group. They'd get together for pickleball, tennis, all that stuff. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, but you ended up so it seems rare that you would miss something, so you prioritized.
Yes, I tried, and if I couldn't do it, my husband
went.
Able to.
You worked it out. You worked it out.
We worked it out, but I did the best I could do, and I'm not perfect. I know it's not easy, to anyone. I had it easier because I kind of thought I worked for myself, and I started doing things without asking permission, like working from home on a Monday and a Friday. And then, I started then on Wednesdays having all the creative team come out to Montclair.
That's smart.
So this was before, the pandemic when people were working at home. And I just kind of did it, and it made my life a little more balanced.
Right. That makes sense. Okay, so this podcast is called Making Space. So if you had a full day, Bobbi, that was for you, that you had no commitments, nothing, clear calendar, do what you want, wake up when you want, sleep when you want, what would you do?
Okay. I wake up and I drink my double water or AG1, have an espresso, read the paper on my iPad, put my exercise clothes on, go do an exercise class, something, come home, shower, put my wet hair in a ponytail, put a big sweater on, a clean pair of tights, and honestly, I would either go to the mall or I would go to Costco or I would...
What are you doing? Just walking around?
Yeah. Just being a person, just walking around, touching, I order everything online because I'm so busy. I want to go in and try some things on and touch them.
Yes, I like that.
So look, thank God for Instacart. But I mean, like how many times have you gotten like fruit and you're like,
I know, I should have gone. I know,
but
exactly.
it's hard, you know. But yes, I like doing those things for myself and just having a moment to walk around and just look.
Yeah, that's interesting because you like all that. Yeah. Would there be any work-related stuff in your day?
Nah. No, you're giving me a day to
do whatever.
But
you can fill it.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'll hop on my creative call with my creative director who gives me really cool visuals to approve or not approve. That's me, that's my hobby.
Yeah, that's fun. When is it lights out for you?
I'm not a late night person at all. So I stay up till about 9 and then I go upstairs and I put my jammies on and there is so much to do in the bathroom before I go to bed now. It's like you take your makeup off, you wash your face, you put maybe a serum on, maybe a moisturizer, you floss, you brush, you put the hormones on.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I take bioidentical hormones.
Okay.
I take a couple of things to help me sleep, natural things. And my husband's always like, what are you doing up there? I thought we were going to watch this show. I'm like, I'll be right down.
I'm on the way.
Because it requires a lot of stuff.
All right, Bobbi, thank you. Guys, get this book. It's called Bobbi Brown, Still Bobbi. It's a great, great, great read. I dog-eared a bunch of the pages. Bunch of life lessons, beautiful pictures, and just a life well lived. And you're not even, you're on a roll. So.
I'm living.
Yeah, you are. Thanks, Bobbi.
Hey, thanks for watching. And don't forget, you can catch the Today Show every morning on NBC or take Today when you're on the go. Just follow the Today podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.